No,
And
it's really not the question. The question is, if we drop the target now, do we lose investment? Do we lose opportunities? What's the cost of abandoning the target right now?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Well, sorry. I mean, you can ask the question you like. I'll answer it the way I like. It's very.
That is so slimy. Well, you can ask the question where you like, but I'm just going to answer it the way I like. Meaning, you don't have an answer for that question. So what are you doing? If this is your first time to my channel and you like my content, then don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and join me in some conversation in the comments below. Share your thoughts and I'll get back to you there. So let's get into it.
Matt Canavan, welcome to the program.
Thank you, David. Great to be with you.
So is your review now complete?
Look, there's been a lot of work done on it.
So before we jump into it, share with me what you think in the comments below in terms of where you sit for net zero, whether we should go along with it, whether we should can it all together. And if you've got some other solutions, you may have to chuck what you think should be the path forward for Australia. Now, my understanding so far is that all the modelling has been done. It suggests that net zero should go ahead. I haven't really checked to sort of see any updates on investors and how the rollout is going for the last maybe like 3 weeks or whatever. But I haven't seen anything too alarming in the Sky News headlines. Nothing different than normal, but I'm going to assume that there hasn't been much done and it's just going to be the same talking points, even though that there is a quote-unquote analysis that has been done. I just don't think that they have the ability to actually do an in-depth analysis similar to what the CSIRO has done. I just feel like this is going to... I don't think there is an alternative plan. If they're going to use nuclear, we need to see some modelling. That's always going to be my position until we actually see some data. We just have to sort of follow what's been given to us, from my understanding. Anyway, if you guys disagree, put it in the below. If you agree and care to elaborate, go for it.
Definitely will be continuing discussions with my colleagues this fortnight, as we have every parliamentary sitting week since this review was announced. I've been getting great feedback from colleagues. I think the Nationals Party is single-minded here in seeking a better deal for Australians. Currently, we're not getting a good deal from net zero. It's been a bit of a scam where bankers and big business makes money and small businesses, families have to pay more. Power prices have gone up 40% since we signed up to net zero. Both electricity and gas prices have gone up by...
All right, so already he's going on the same old talking points that they always do. But just at very first, so he's waiting to hear back from the people doing the review. He's waiting back to hear from his team. I don't think anything is, they're really excited about what's coming out of it.
It's not a good deal for Australia. So something's got to change. I mean, the government's approach is let's make this train go faster. Let's cut more emissions faster than the rest of the world. They're openly saying we should go faster than the rest of the world. I think it's a reasonable question to ask is why? Why should Australia cut its emissions at double the rate of the advanced world, which is what has been happening to date? And now the government for the next 10 years wants to take that to triple the rate that is planned over the next decade. Why would we impose those costs on Australians when the rest of the world is not doing the same? How does that help the environment? It doesn't. It just punishes Australians.
We'll come to some of that, but just back on the question.
So quickly, the reason why 2050 was the goal is because they're trying to align with what the Paris Agreement is. They're trying to meet those goals as an international goal. That's why they've used that for their modelling, is because they're going to reach those emission rates, as per a lot of other countries that have committed. The one they always pick on is China and India, and they are the huge contributors, and there is a lot of truth in all of that. But they've committed to a goal too of 2060. I think India is 2070. So it's probably the argument is the rate. Why are we doing it faster? It's because that's what we've said that we're going to do, so we can meet our Paris Agreement dates, and the Treasury has put it together as it's going to be beneficial from an economy point of view, and that's basically what they're following. So and there's a lot of modelling and work that's sort of been done into that, and that's why they're following it. So this is why I say Matt Canavan's got to come back with some pretty strong reporting in order to counter all of that. Otherwise, it's just going to be noise.
Surely you know whether you've finished your own review. Is it done?
Well, look, as I said, I'll be presenting things to my colleagues this week. It'll be up to the party room whether or not my work, Ross's work, is good enough.
So you will present it tomorrow?
I'm not going to reveal... Well, I'll present work, as I have been doing the last few weeks. But, you know, David, you've probably got bosses or had bosses over your career. Sometimes when you present something, they tell you, that's not good enough. Go back and do some more work. So that may very well happen tomorrow as well.
All right. Well, speaking of that work, have you spoken to economists? Can you tell us what's been involved in your work as part of this review? Who have you spoken to?
Yeah, look, I mean, I probably talk about net zero more than anyone else almost in the country, David.
That's probably
so yes,
right.
I've spoken to a variety of businesses, economists, unions. I have met with green activist groups on the investment side just last week. I met with some conservation groups. I pretty much live, sleep and breathe net zero, David.
And have you done any modelling on this? Because some of you...
get common sense.
So no, he hasn't spoken to. The question was, what are the modelling and economists he's spoken to, and there was none. So this is exactly what I said at the very, very start: is that there's nothing. I can almost guarantee you, even the thing that's going to come out of it, I reckon there is nothing. Oh man, it'll be so interesting to see this report that comes out.
Back into
Okay, some of your colleagues were expecting you to do modelling as part of this review. Has that happened?
Look, we hope to do some of that work, obviously, in the time we've had. We hope to have done some of that work. Jesus.
Hasn't been done just yet. That's an extensive exercise. I would make the point that when the government announced its 2035 targets, it's done.
So how can it, like, without the modelling, how can you be so... How can you have such a strong opinion of it all if you haven't even done any modelling? You're just going off beliefs at this sort of point. Like, Jesus.
No modelling on the cost of reaching those targets. And as someone who's done economic modelling myself, I think we've got to be realistic about what that can and can't do. As I say, the scoreboard is very clear. The lived reality.
And there's still like no alternative that's been mentioned. Like, hey, the path we're going on for net zero, which is, 100% renewables, or, with firming, sorry. So like 90% with firming. We see that as, not the best thing for the Australian economy. We actually think that, we should still use like 60% coal and then 40% renewables. Like there's no alternative. It's just slagging net zero, and that's how he's sort of made a name for himself now.
Of net zero is very clear. It is not working for the Australian people.
But I guess sure,
there's a role for modelling, but the old saying is also true that if you ask an economist how to open a can of tuna, they'll say, let's assume we have a can opener. And so you've got to be a bit careful.
No, I take that point, but I guess the big question is, do you know what it would cost Australia to drop the net zero target?
Well, there has been, sorry, just to be clear, what was that last one?
What would it cost Australia to drop the net zero target, to get rid of net zero?
So this is a very, very important question because we've invested so much into net zero already, with all the rollout, all the batteries, all the solar panels, all the wind farms, et cetera, and all the foreign investment that's coming into it, all the infrastructure and all that sort of stuff, all the planning, all the trade deals, everything. If we were to scrap all that, how much will that cost? Because it doesn't just all of a sudden balance out. You don't get a refund on it all. So that is a very, very important question now.
To drop net zero. Well, there's obviously in that question there's the cost of it. The calculation is what is the cost of getting to net zero, because the cost of dropping it is the benefit of avoiding those costs.
There is a cost. They've put it all through the modelling. I don't understand that.
No, it's really not the question. The question is, if we drop the target now, do we lose investment? Do we lose opportunities? What's the cost of abandoning the target right now?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Well, sorry. I mean, you can ask the question you like. I'll answer it the way I like. It's very
okay. Oh man, that is so slimy. That is so slimy. Well, you can ask a question where you like, but I'm just going to answer it the way I like. Meaning, you don't have an answer for that question. So what are you doing? Like, this is... Like, I can understand if net zero and, like, if you can have, like, really good talking points and you can actually, like, describe to me, like, all these sort of impacts, and, yeah, like, I'll listen to you and, all that sort of stuff, and I'll probably get on board with some of the things you say, too. But when this is your leader behind your anti-net zero movement, and, like, Barnaby Joyce is exactly the same, when these are the ones that are, like, going hard on it, and they can't even answer a question like, what's your alternative? What's it going to cost to, like, not do it? And, like, and this is the kind of, like, slimy response you get. It's just, how can you have faith in what they're saying? Like, I'm sure there are some people out there who will be able to, like, use this talking, or like who are anti-net zero, that actually might have some really solid modeling and a way to actually deliver the information such that it makes sense, instead of just these same talking points over and over again that just they're empty.
Clear, of course, that the cost of not doing something is avoiding the cost of doing it, right? That's pretty common sense. And we know from a group called Net Zero Australia, which is a consortium of the University of Queensland, the University of Melbourne and Princeton University, all people who support a net zero objective, may I say, they put the estimated cost of reaching net zero in Australia at $7 to $9 trillion, getting close to $300,000 per Australian. Now, that's obviously an enormous.
Yeah, that's probably over the lifetime of it, though. When you say it costs $9 trillion to go into net zero, are you talking about over the whole lifetime of net zero, or is it over the next decade? Or, does that include other prices, like, all the maintenance required? Does that include all the, the foreign investment and stuff like that? Like, you can't just throw that number around but then not go into detail about it. I think he's just using it as a way to basically make it sound more expensive than what it really is.
Cost, and you have to wonder why we would pay that cost in just one generation when clearly the rest of the world is not acting in that way.
But surely Senator, you also need to know the alternative. You also need to know the alternative. And look, the Treasury's done modelling on this. They say dropping net zero risks lower economic growth, reduced investment, missed export and employment opportunities, and higher energy prices. The International Energy Agency has also warned that if policymakers and industry leaders put off action and spending today, we'll end up paying more tomorrow. The National Farmers Federation says farmers' interests are at stake. We need to stick with net zero, is the NFF's view. So they're all warning that there's a greater cost of dropping net zero.
Correct.
Well, all those people have been wrong. I don't know why we'd listen to them.
So they're all wrong, you're wrong.
Okay, so if they're wrong, why are they wrong? Don't go, oh, well, there's a bigger cost and blah, blah, blah. Like, you need to provide it. Like, why are they wrong? That's what all the stuff I've done on net zero for the past, couple of months or whatever. And there's still just, this alternative just hasn't been discussed, and it hasn't been, there's been no traction on it, whatever, except for these really, really hyperbolic talking points.
These are the same people. Let's judge people. I think we should judge people on their past performance. And all of those organisations got behind modelling and said that by adopting net zero, we'd cut power prices by $275. That by adopting net zero, we'd get cheaper energy in this country. By adopting net zero, we'd attract enormous investment in critical minerals. And they also mentioned hydrogen. No one mentions it anymore. But that was what we were promised just 3 and 4 years ago. So I'm not going to take being given quotes from those organisations which lack any credibility in this debate. Now, take the Treasury.
But you can't say what the cost would be. Not doing net zero.
No, they haven't. No, they haven't. Well, as I said, we would avoid $7 to $9 trillion. That is a huge benefit. I can do that, David. And David, the Treasury, just to be very clear here, the Treasury did not model not doing net zero in the 2035 targets. They modelled 3 scenarios, all of which ended up us reaching net zero in 2050. Now, how can you do a cost-benefit analysis of a policy if you don't cost not doing it, if you don't cost a baseline? That modelling does not deserve any credibility whatsoever. And this is why we've ended up in this mess in this country, because we haven't been taking a serious look at the costs of going down this path.
Well, surely then you're making the case to do the modelling as to what it would cost to abandon net zero. Would we need to build new coal-fired power stations? Is that what we would need to do?
Okay. Well, look, one thing we perhaps should reflect on, David, is the recommendations of the Energy Security Board. They're an independent organisation which recommended that we need to invest, we need to support all types of energy production, including new and existing coal and gas. And
so
that
what's the cost
recommendation
of
was made in mid-2022. Well, as I said, it was a recommendation of the capacity review into the capacity mechanism. What governments did in the end is ignore that advice and establish a scheme which only supports some types of power, which is wind, solar and batteries. And we're seeing the consequence of that.
But new coal isn't free. What's the cost and who pays for new coal-fired power? Because right now there's a lot of global investment appetite in clean energy, not so much in coal. Who's going to build new coal-fired power?
Good question.
Well, look, I think there are certainly people who would do that if it was opened up. The fact of the matter is that nothing, David. Well, I've spoken to lots of people. I'm not going to reveal them on your show. But
there's secret sources.
What is true, David, is that there is no energy production being built in this country without government support. Right?
So government has to buy.
There's a ridiculous idea that. Well, look. The reality is the government's involved now, and what I do think should be something we go back and consider is to a technologically neutral platform where we allow all sorts of energy to join the race. So maybe coal doesn't win the race. I'm not necessarily saying that, right? I'm not saying that we should go and do that. But what we should do is let all types of energy production compete, because the fact is that when we ran our electricity grid based largely on coal-fired power stations running at their design intentions, 80 to 90% capacity, we had power prices that were half what we have today.
Okay, but to be clear,
and
Senator,
the government's just wiped.
You're saying if we abandon net zero, we don't know the cost of doing that. I take your point about the cost of sticking with net zero, but if we don't know the cost, there are secret investors who'll build coal-fired power, but the government, the taxpayer, will also have to be behind that. That's your alternative.
Well, what I'm saying is, I don't know if those people will win the race, David. What I'm saying is, what I do know is when you narrow your options in life, it tends to become more costly.
Okay.
So when you say, I want to do a certain thing, and you say, oh no, but I'm only going to get to that destination by running rather than using a car, it's going to probably take you longer.
Sure.
But maybe there's traffic and you can run there faster. But that's the problem we've got with our current system, that we are unnecessarily handicapping ourselves as a country by not using our own.
When you go through the CSIRO reports, they look at all the different types of energy. They look at, nuclear, coal, gas, and they do model different mixes in the energy system, and then they also apply against like different scenarios too. So what he's saying there has been done.
Resources. Now, these are resources like coal and like gas that we export to the world and we let them use. And now they're taking our jobs. So we're not just exporting coal, we're exporting our jobs as well. We have lost over 8,000 manufacturing jobs since we signed up to net zero. We've lost the entire nickel manufacturing industry. Maybe we'll get on to critical minerals. We've lost an entire nickel industry. We've lost the urea industry. We no longer make the most important fertiliser to grow food in this country. We have to import that. We no longer make plastics from scratch in this country. All of those things, those three things have happened since we adopted net zero. And so what I'm saying, let's take the anchor off the Australian economy and let the thing go. And maybe it'll be coal, maybe it'll be gas, maybe it'll be renewables, but let's go as fast as we can as a nation and put Australians first.
No, I hear that point. It's still
like this whole ever since we've adopted net zero, all these bad things have happened. We only accepted net zero 3-4 years ago. Do you really think that accepting net zero then proceeding with the rollout is really going to damage everything so suddenly? There was a huge effect from COVID. We're still dealing with a lot of issues from inflation, which is a global impact. There's just so much more to all of the things that you're saying than just adopting net zero.
It means power has to come from somewhere and be built by someone. One of your other concerns you've been expressing about wind farms and solar farms is the impact on koalas, the koala habitats. Do you accept there's a much, much bigger impact from coal mines when it comes to koala habitats in Australia?
Not where I am, David. I mean,
I'm talking about Australia. Maybe not where you live, but
okay. All right, okay. David, look, I mean, obviously, you got to go out and see the real natural environment.
He is so upset. He's frustrated as well because it's like David Spears, he's really good at pressuring some questions and he's good at staying on top of them. But you can kind of tell that David Spears didn't even ask very heavy questions or he's not even biting back too much. He's just literally saying hey, what's the cost of not doing net zero? If you don't want net zero to go ahead, then what's the cost? Because the people that wanted net zero to go ahead, they put the cost down. And it was also the CSIRO that sort of gave the government they worked with the energy operator and to basically provide, hey, this is what the best outcome is for achieving net zero and reducing our emissions. And then the government puts the policies together to try and achieve that. That's what's going on. But you can't even sort of give a very, very easy answer of what's the outcome if we don't go to net zero. And now you're getting really upset and real childish about it. It's just
And have a look what's happening. I mean, the devastation and destruction that is being done to the beautiful bush around central Queensland by large-scale wind projects is incredibly sad.
But why have you never raised this concern about coal?
Well, can I just answer, David? Can I just answer? It's a very serious issue, David. I think it's a very serious. Can I just answer? Right? Can I just get to the answer? I mean, the problem here is, David, I don't support building a coal mine and the collapse.
You can see what you mean.
You've got to go out and see the real natural environment and have a look what's happening. I mean,
watch Dave Spears here.
The devastation and destruction that is being done to the beautiful bush around central Queensland by large. Very serious. Can I just answer? Right? Can I just get to the answer? I mean, the problem
you can see him smirking.
Here is, David, I don't support building a coal mine on the Canavan Ranges, which is some of the most pristine bushland in this country. I don't support that. I don't support a factory going there. I don't support an LNG.
I don't mean to sound, but man, just biting back about it. You can just tell from the start of the interview to now, he's just getting I didn't say that. Just dude, bro, calm down. It's not his fault that you don't have answers and you're kind of going on these random rants.
David, I don't support building a coal mine on the Canavan Ranges, which is some of the most pristine bushland in this country. I don't support that. I don't support a factory going there. I don't support an LNG facility there going, and I don't support a large wind turbine going there either. That's the problem. The problem is where these developers are choosing to build these large-scale wind farms is in some of the most pristine bush in our country because they're building on the top of ranges. They want to get the wind, right? They want to go as high as they can. And these areas have amazing biodiversity value to our country, and they're being absolutely destroyed. That is not where we build our coal mines. And I'll be very clear. I'm not against all renewables.
Okay. But do you accept you've taken a position against any limits on land clearing? There's much more land clearing for agriculture than wind farms in Australia every year. Coal mines as well. You've never raised a concern about koalas until it comes to wind farms.
Well, that's not true.
Yes. That's, it's a problem now because it fits your narrative. So now all of a sudden these things that you didn't care about before, now you all of a sudden care about.
I was part of I think I worked for Barnaby Joyce at the time, but as part of a Senate inquiry, we made a recommendation to make sure that coal seam gas facilities were not built on prime agricultural land. I absolutely do not think that mines, coal seam gas facilities, any kind of industrial development should come on our prime agricultural land, and I also don't think it should come on areas of our country that have pristine environmental value. So I'm sorry, it's just not right. I mean, it's about getting a right balance here, David. We're out of whack at the moment, investing too much in one type of power and obsessing over it to the extent that we ignore other important values to our countryside. There is a real connection between many Australians and our natural bush, and we're not even valuing that anymore because we're trying to meet some international goal and please the United Nations. I mean, I don't give a stuff about the United Nations.
You'll now be defending the koalas. Okay. No, that's good to know.
Absolutely. Now, look, yeah, David, I didn't get into politics to wear a koala suit, but I find myself in this very strange position now, where the green groups, the conservation groups, aren't doing that. They don't see them in the koala suits anymore.
Right. But you'll be taking a strong line on land clearing laws and coal mines, and you'll be defending the koalas now.
Well, mate, it's about getting a balance in life. Okay. And I'm not against all, just to be clear, I'm not against all renewable energy. It's just having the correct balance. And we have got way out of whack as a country at the moment because we're obsessed over this one thing.
Okay, I've got to ask you about Barnaby Joyce. You mentioned the fact that you used to work for him, you're his chief of staff, you guys are very close. Can you explain to us where he's at the moment? Will he be welcome to attend tomorrow's National Party Room meeting, or does he first need to clear up whether he's staying or going?
Yeah, I think you were trying to get into Donald Trump's head before on the panel. I probably will pass on trying to get inside Barnaby Joyce's head too. But he's a great mate, and I think he's a great Australian, been an impactful statesman on the political stage for some time. I hope we do keep him in the Nationals Party. Look, I can't speak for the party room, David, but I certainly hope he comes along. It's unfortunate when people don't feel like they're part of the team and loved. And I know lots of people have reached out to him in the last few weeks, and as I say, I'd love to keep him part of the team.
But he says he's a free agent. He's not ruling out going to One Nation. If he's about to jump ship, should he be attending National Party Room meetings?
Well, look, as I said, it's a matter for the room. I mean, look, if he's a free agent, I suppose keeping the sporting analogy alive, those free agents typically still play for their team. And if you've got Reece Walsh as part of your team, you put him in the grand final, if free agent or not.
Is he kicking goals for you guys at the moment? Just to stick with that analogy, do you think he's really kicking goals for the coalition right now?
Yeah, I think he is, David, because support for net zero is dropping off a cliff. Okay. I mean, there was a poll just a couple of weeks ago that showed that net zero now has net zero support, which is a big turnaround in just a few months. And I think Barnaby's played a big role in that and pointing out the fact that this net zero promise we were made is not delivering. It's just not working for the Australian people because they've seen their power bills go up, they've seen their jobs go offshore, and it's time to think again about this policy.
Final question. You've said you're not going to lead the Nats, you're not going to One Nation. Can I ask why? Where do you differ to Pauline Hanson?
Look, it's not about Pauline for me, mate. It's about the people who put me here. Yeah. I feel very honoured and privileged to be a senator. Well, I've just come to the point. I mean, it's got nothing to do with One Nation. I don't care about One Nation. I care about the thousands of hardworking men and women, many of whom are members of the Liberal National Party, who have given me this enormous privilege and honour to serve my country, to serve my state, and I'm not going to turn my back on them. Now, I know those members and supporters often get very, very frustrated with their political representatives, and we let them down sometimes. We let them down this year at the election, but I will do my best with a bunch of band of brothers and sisters to fight for what we think is right in this country, to fight to bring this country back from the brink of losing our entire manufacturing, almost all of our manufacturing industry, which is on the cards right now, given the power prices we face. We will fight to make sure that we have a future for young Australians, to own a home, that we control our borders, not have unsustainable migration. We will fight to put this country first. We've got a government right now that seems much, much more interested in getting a claim on the world stage, be it on climate change or Middle East peace. I think the Australian people deserve a break for a change, and I'll be fighting for them and fighting for them within the Liberal National Party.
Senator Matt Canavan, appreciate you joining us. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, David.
All right, so still waiting. Didn't learn anything more about what's going on in this review, but apparently it's going to be a good one according to Matt Canavan. So that wraps everything up. If you made it this far, don't forget to, and you liked my content or liked this video, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.